Hello and welcome to KMV Travel, the podcast. I'm Kelly and I am here with a special guest today. This is Erica, who is my colleague at KMV Travel. She is our Director of Agent Support, and we have been having quite the last couple days. So Erica, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we are going to be talking about something that has been on the minds of a lot of people right now. And I have to say, if you're hearing some background noise, that's because we are actually recording this from the Restaurantosaurus Lounge in Animal Kingdom because we, like I said, have been having a very busy 2 days. We've been trying out the new Lightning Lane Multi-Pass and Single Pass program. All right, so I think the first thing we should do is talk about what are the changes that have actually gone into place. And we should say we're going to talk about Walt Disney World. Disneyland is a little bit different. Disneyland, basically, it was just a rebranding of the name. So whereas we used to call it Genie Plus, now we call it Lightning Lane Multi-Pass and Single Pass. But Erica, do you want to talk a little bit about what were the changes that went into effect? This was back July 24th.
Yes.
What's kind of changed?
Yeah, so the biggest one, of course, is what we did about a week ago. So being able to select your 3 Lightning Lane choices 7 days before we checked into our resort. So that's going to be the biggest change, I feel like. No more stress at 7 a.m. You're getting up like, do I get virtual queue? Do I get individual Lightning Lane? What ride do I get first? So you actually can kind of plan out your day a little sooner. And then being able to kind of see like, okay, this is what the strategy for Magic Kingdom. We have these 3 rides. We don't necessarily need to get there early, but should we rope drop because we didn't get our top choices? So I think that's going to be the biggest game changer for the new Lightning Lane Multi-Pass and the Lightning Lane Single Pass.
Yes, you make it 7 days in advance if you're a Disney resort guest. If you're not staying at a resort on property, but you're a ticket holder, it's going to be 3 days in advance. So that's the same thing for annual pass holders. If you have dated tickets, anything like that, it's going to be 3 days in advance.
Yep.
But if you are a ticket holder, it will be for the entirety of your ticket.
Yep.
So if you have a 7-day ticket, you'll be able to make it for 7 days.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
and I guess let's do a sidebar on that. So if you do want to do Tiana's Bayou, if you do want to do a Star Wars night at Hollywood, those should be at the end of your trip so that you have more options to choose from when you're selecting these 7 days out or 3 days out. It gives you a little bit more leadway with the crowd levels or however you play that into your trip.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So when we go through this, what we're going to talk about is kind of how the system's working and what pro tips are.
Yeah.
So that is one of the biggest pro tips is what is, just like we have with Genie Plus, what are the attractions that are going first? So let's go through kind of what's the process when you are booking 7 days or 3 days in advance. You're going to go on and you're going to select a tier A and 2 tier Bs if it's Magic Kingdom, Epcot, or Hollywood Studios. And what's our strategy with that? Like, what did you kind of look at when we were doing it?
Yeah, so I think with Magic, Magic has the most selections you can choose from. So you have multiple options at Magic. For me, it was, do we want to get Tiana's? How can we do this? They do have 2 options. Do we do virtual queue or do we try to get that tier A?
Mm-hmm. Because that is a tier A attraction.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then there's also Peter Pan just reopened. That's also a tier A. You have Big Thunder Mountain, which is also a tier A. So you have a lot of Space Mountain. A lot of your big roller coaster rides are going to be tier A. What is your top priority for a tier A? And then kind of look and see what is your top tier B, top 2 choices. So is it Haunted Mansion? Is it Pirates? So I think we kind of went into this one as seeing what's available and then going from there. So the benefit of being able to travel to Walt Disney World a lot is we can kind of make these selections based on standby like queues, what the wait time is, what's going to be the first ones with Genie Plus that went quickest. Mm-hmm. So when you got into that park at 7 a.m. and you could make that second selection 2 hours later, what was available, what wasn't available. So if you knew that they were going to go quickly, those are the ones that you would want to prioritize when you're selecting these Lightning Lane Multi-Pass attractions prior to your trip.
Yeah, so for us, what we did, we had 2 days. So that did kind of set it us at a disadvantage, kind of, because we couldn't say, if you had a 7-day trip, like Erica mentioned before, you would if your priority was Tiana's Bayou, you would probably say, okay, I'm going to put my Magic Kingdom day at the end of the trip because less people are going to have been able to make a reservation at that point. So it's more likely that I'll be able to grab that tier A Tiana's Bayou. For us, when we went in for Magic Kingdom, Tiana's was gone.
It was gone. No option.
No option to grab that at all. So we wound up grabbing
Peter Pan.
And we did get good times. So that's the thing to think about too, is we grabbed our tier A and our tier B. But we really looked at more of what are the times that those attractions are at versus what is the attraction, because we knew that if we got in and we had 3 attractions between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., each time we used one of those attractions, we tapped in, we could make another reservation, and the tiers don't matter once you're in the park.
Absolutely correct, yeah.
So let's talk about our Magic Kingdom Day.
Okay, so Magic Kingdom Day, because we didn't get Tiana's, because we wanted to really maximize our time, and because we still wanted to try park hopping. We wanted to get through all 4 parks in 2 days. Mm-hmm. So we looked at Tier A, what can we rope drop? So we thought, okay, we've got Peter Pan, so we've got Fantasyland. Really, we've got that checked off. We're going to have a lightning lane for that. So let's do Space Mountain. Let's get another Tier A. Let's focus on Virtual Queue, which we'll talk about in a second. Mm-hmm. And then let's do Space Mountain. And you actually, I think we had gotten, was it Pirates and Haunted Mansion, and then we actually were able to modify. So we kind of tried a new strategy here where we looked to see what attraction can we get at 9? What's available at the beginning so that we can go ahead and grab another attraction. Like, let's see if there's more availability once we get into the park. So I think we modified Pirates and got Dumbo, which was a good move on our part. But we knew we wanted to hit like Barnstormer. You could hit It's a Small World. A lot of attractions that are in Fantasyland in the early hours or the early 30 minutes before you go into the parks, before the parks open.
Yeah.
So that was kind of our strategy on going in that day. But things changed. Like, Disney is very fluid. Yes. So having a strategy is always important. Knowing what's priority for you before you get to your park day, I think, helps set us up for success at Magic Kingdom Day.
100%. And I think that the difference where with Genie Plus, I don't know if early park hours were as important as they are now.
Right.
With Genie Plus, you were really like, everyone was at an even playing field.
Yep.
You came in and 7 a.m., everyone could make their first selection. So resort guests, as well as non-resort guests, annual pass holders, whoever it was. But now what it's doing is you've basically taken it where resort guests have this 4-day buffer before anyone else. So they do get, this benefit. It makes it much more valuable to stay on property. But they come in and they kind of have the ability to make these reservations. So using that half hour that you get as a resort guest prior to the general open time is very important. But also, if you're not staying on property, I would highly recommend being there at rope drop, even for your time. Just because the lowest times are going to be, or lowest crowd levels are going to be in the morning and then in the evening. So take that time and come in with a strategy. Like, Erica's saying, for us, we knew that there's I think there's 4 or 5 Tier A attractions at Magic Kingdom. Yeah. And we kind of looked at it as, okay, we have 1 Tier A that we're able to select. That's Peter Pan. What Tier A are we going to rope drop? Yep. So with Magic Kingdom, you're either going into Tomorrowland or you're going into Fantasyland. We already got the Fantasyland one, like Erica said. So we rope dropped Space Mountain. We were on and off of that in like less than 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So then we could go over to Barnstormer, and yes, Barnstormer is not one that you normally have a huge wait for, but the thing is that you want to think about what's close by. Yep. So for us, we knew we needed to get over to Dumbo because that was going to be our 9 o'clock check-in time for our lightning lane, so that once we check in for that lightning lane, we can make our next lightning lane selection. So we wanted to just get over there. Yeah. So basically, Barnstormer was on the way. So let's just cut that out and we get that done. Yep.
And I think that's a key too. If you're not a resort guest and you're selecting 3 days prior, a lot of your selections, you're getting afternoon and evening times. You're not getting those morning selections. So by modifying or getting those earlier times, you're able to get more lightning lane attractions.
Yeah. And modifying is something that's new
Yes.
with this, really. I mean, Genie Plus you can modify, but it's a different
type of modification.
Yeah. So now what you're able to do is basically go in, and when you make your initial selection, you can select a time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just going to be the first initial, the first
your first
available
option. Yeah, first available option.
It will always come up with the first available time, but then it will actually go and you can basically select to modify the time, and you can make a change to that. So, but let's say that you are a non-resort guest, you come in and you get, the Haunted Mansion is the one you want, and it's not till 6 o'clock, but you're like, I know I'm going to park hop before then. You can go in, and if you click in the app, you'll see 3 dots next to that. It will have a menu item that says modify, and you can keep kind of checking to see if you can modify that time. The times that we've been able to modify, it was really, it was very easy to do.
It was very easy to modify. A lot of surprisingly earlier options so that we could park hop throughout the day. I think we had originally a Haunted Mansion at like 4:30.
Yeah.
Knowing we wanted to park hop to Epcot. So we were able to change things up. And that was actually part of our strategy.
Yes.
That we did modify it away from Haunted Mansion. Yes. And we were able to modify it to a Tier A at Epcot later in the evening, which is something that was a nice bonus that we have with this new Lightning Lane Multi-Pass that we did not have with the prior Genie Plus.
100%. So when we got into Magic Kingdom, obviously we told you about kind of like what our rope drop situation was and everything like that. But we looked at it, we knew that we were going to scan into Dumbo, and we were checking what the wait times were at that point, and also what Lightning Lane times were available. So we were looking, because we knew that it was likely that the first ride that was going to become unavailable that we wanted was Remy's Ratatouille Adventure.
Which is my priority number 1.
Yes. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. So we knew that the first attraction that we really need to focus on getting after we tapped into Dumbo was Remy's. Because we have park hopper tickets. If you don't have park hopper tickets, then you're only going to be able to make attraction selections for the park that you're in. But we knew that we could park hop. So we went ahead and we grabbed Remy at that point. And then we saw that there was no wait for Haunted Mansion. So we said, okay, let's modify that Haunted Mansion attraction selection that we have for Frozen Ever After. So we were able to do that. So now we've got 2 attractions already kind of stacked, quote unquote, which was like the Genie Plus thing to do over at Epcot for the afternoon. So then we still had 1 attraction to work with.
As we were at Magic Kingdom. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so we were kind of able to ride an attraction, make another reservation, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So when we got over to, or I guess I should ask first, was there any takeaways that you had from Magic Kingdom specifically? Anything that you would say was like pro tip, or anything that surprised you in that park specifically?
Not really. I think that for the most part, to me, I thought the wait times would be a little bit longer with this new process. I think the surprising things were some of the ones that were used to a 5 to 15 minute wait now had a longer wait. We were looking at Aladdin's Magic Carpet at 25, 30 minutes. In the afternoon, really, at Magic Kingdom, you see those kind of like rides that are more specific for younger children. The wait times were significantly more than they've ever been.
The Tier B.
The Tier B attractions were so high. Dumbo, 45 minutes. It's a Small World, 45 minutes. Things that you wouldn't think that they would get high are now showing longer standby waits. And I think it's because people are having to select them as their Lightning Lane choices. So I almost wonder if people haven't realized you can modify.
Yes.
Kind of change it once you get in there. Modify and see what Tier A do you want to do. Because once you're in the park, we could have modified them to Tier A.
Once we're in the park, we've scanned into our first.
Yes. Which is why it was so important that we got that first 9 a.m. scan.
Yeah, so I would almost say that I agree. The biggest takeaway for me was those Tier B attractions. Like, it was incredible to me that like Buzz Lightyear was like right away. It was like a 9 p.m. return time. Was the first available. So I would say when you scan it, like, think about grabbing at least one attraction that's like the earliest possible time that you can get, just so you can use that attraction, once you've tapped into that Lightning Lane, to make your next one. So you kind of have like your 2 should be ones that you definitely want to do. And then your other one that you have should be one that is just kind of like
the earliest
your
time
one
available.
you can play with.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I think is like when you make your initial selections, if you can't get what you want, don't be like freaked out about it, because you can modify.
Yes.
Things are going to become available. It is, you're still going to be on your phone.
You are going to be on your phone.
Yeah, because you're going to be checking to try to modify things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was my biggest takeaway from kind of overall, but also with Magic Kingdom especially, just because there are so many attractions.
I agree. Yeah.
All right, so after we were at Magic Kingdom, we hopped to Epcot.
Yes.
And obviously a lot less attractions here. But also because of that, it seems like it was harder to get times.
Yeah, it was harder to get times for some, but then it was almost like we had walk-up availability. So like we were able to grab, we wanted to wait for Soarin' because it was available before we had even park hopped.
Yes.
You know, so we wanted to park hop.
Yeah.
Grab the Soarin'. When we got off Soarin', we were able to grab a quick Living with the Land, Seas with Nemo, and Spaceship Earth. So that one lightning lane we were able to use 5 times. We never felt like we lost out on lightning lane multipass, having like we were holding Remy's till 8:25. We were holding Frozen to 5:30. We never felt like we were missing out with 2 being so late in the evening.
Yeah.
So there was some availability as we kind of started rolling through Epcot to get things done.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. I think what that probably means is that the majority of people are not buying it at Epcot.
Yeah.
And they're park hopping at Epcot, so maybe they're modifying to a Remy's or Frozen or whatever it is, because like having so many immediate
returns, yeah.
Yeah, like which we didn't have in Magic Kingdom.
No, not at all. At Magic Kingdom, they were the ones you would think would have immediate were 9 p.m.
Yes.
Gone by 10 a.m.
Yeah. So that's probably something to think about is if you probably can go ahead and if you have Park Hopper. Start a day at Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, whatever it is, and then hop to Epcot.
I fully have confidence in the evening parties now. So
with
the after-hour parties, the special event parties, I would say start your day at Magic Kingdom as much as you can. Park hop to the other parks, and then utilize those event parties because there's nothing available at Magic. I would never park hop, I don't think, with this new system. I could try it out, but I wouldn't start at Epcot and then hope to be able to stack for Magic later in the day.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. We should probably try that at some point to see how it goes. But yeah, I think that Magic Kingdom should be where you start. Yeah, it seems like that's going to be the best availability. It's just going to, because you don't have this like rest, period that you had with Genie Plus where you could kind of stack. Right. Because every 2 hours you can
grab something new. Yeah.
So that kind of, in some ways, hinders things, but it's also like, I feel like I'll say, like, we went into the system being like, oh, God.
Yes.
Like, Erica literally was like, I have anxiety about this.
For weeks on this new system.
But going through and doing what we did yesterday and today has helped so much because we've really seen how to kind of work with the system so that it's the same exact thing. Like, I always say to the families that I work with, like, Genie Plus should be working for you, not the other way around.
Exactly.
And this is the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So anything from Epcot that you think are takeaways?
I think just being, like you said, you have to look at your phone. So being able to just watch those wait times, because you had to think about it. When we saw that Remy's was already getting to 8:25 when we were at Magic Kingdom, if your park hop, let's say your only day at Epcot is the second half of a park day, you need to watch just to say, okay, Remy's is going to be gone at 8:25. Like, we're at 8:25.
Yeah.
Let's grab that now. And the good thing about this new system is you can hold 3. So whereas Genie Plus, you had to wait 2 hours. So you held more at the end of the day. Whereas here, you're starting the day with 3. So it's okay if you grab that last one before it's gone at Epcot. Or Frozen. Like, you can grab 2 because you can still play with that one lightning lane.
Yes.
Whereas Genie Plus, you're stacking with the hopes that, okay, maybe something will be available in 120 minutes. So that I think was the biggest takeaway for Epcot. Epcot, you know, my favorite ride is obviously Remy's. Second favorite ride is Frozen.
Yeah.
Those are 2 tier A rides. So on an Epcot day, you're having to select. You have to decide between the 2.
Yeah.
So that was I think that was the biggest thing, was seeing that we held 3 and we could put 2 away.
Yes. Yeah. I think too, the other thing that we should talk about with Epcot is just that right now, one of the tier A attractions is kind of not available because Test Track is being refurbished. Yeah. So once Test Track comes back, you're going to have more attractions.
More options.
Yeah. Right now, like your tier A is what? You have Remy's, Frozen, Soarin', and Mission Space.
Yes.
I believe. Yeah. So there's, which is also interesting because Mission Space was one with Genie Plus that would be you'd have immediate return times like
exactly.
throughout the day.
Yeah.
And now it's one that's like, you look at it and it's like, oh, the next one available is 8:30 p.m. So again, that's something to think about too. If you can't get a Frozen or a Remy, do you get that and you modify once you get
once
in,
you
whatever.
Scan into that first one, try to modify.
Exactly. But you don't have to pick 1 tier A and 2 tier 2s. You can pick 3 tier 2s.
3 tier 2s, yeah.
Yeah. So like for me and Erica, we know we would never go on Mission Space just because we are too old at this point in our lives. So we probably would be like living with the land, imagination, and
give me some Figment first thing in the morning.
Spaceship Earth, sign me up.
With Nemo and friends.
But I think the biggest strategy that I really took away from all of this was to make sure you always have a 9 a.m. lightning lane.
That's strategy number 1 is how early can you get your first lightning lane?
Yes. Yeah. And the other thing too, and this was the same thing with Genie Plus, is just understanding that not every attraction you do is going to be a lightning lane.
Correct.
Like, you are going to use standby.
To be able to hit 20 attractions on our first day.
Yeah, which we did 10 in
Magic Kingdom and 10 in Epcot.
Yeah.
Just knowing, and that's the great thing, like when we work with our families, we're able to kind of give them a little bit of insight into the park. You have great guides that we created that we can share with our families.
Yes.
So that they know this one it's probably going to be a 20-minute or less wait time.
Yeah. So don't use a lightning lane.
Don't use a lightning lane for this. Modified. Grab it if we didn't have to. I mean, if Dumbo would have been our second choice, it would have been modified. But you have to scan in that one. Dumbo's not one that I would have selected had it been a 10:30. I probably would have picked something different. Yeah, because we knew that and that's something too. I think that's a takeaway. You're gonna have a standby queue. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
but you want to eliminate.
You want to. Which one is the shortest?
Exactly.
Like standby queue.
Yeah.
That's what we want to focus on.
Yeah. I think the other thing that also helped us out really well was like before we would scan into a lightning lane, we would be like, okay, so what's our next one that we're going to get?
Yeah.
And we had that conversation. And of course, for us, like it's 2 adults that are kind of talking. And, if you're a family of 4, 5, whatever it is, you have kids, yes, of course, it's, everybody has kind of what they want to do, but this is where it's so important to have those conversations before you go.
Yes.
And Erica's going through this right now with her family where you have, over 10?
We're going to have 3 children around the ages of 7 to 11,
and a newborn.
6 adults, which can get a little iffy.
Yeah.
So we have a big party that's going to be traveling. You have to take into account other people's opinions. What's their favorite ride?
Yes.
Kind of look and see.
Yeah. But what you did is you asked everyone, you said, okay, so give me your top 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
Attractions.
In order, priority.
Yeah.
Tell me what's priority.
So you could kind of look at it and say, okay, so everybody wants to do Tiana's Bayou.
Right.
So we know that's number 1.
Yes.
Or whatever it may be. So having those conversations before you get into the park is
crucial. Like that's going to prevent there's going to be meltdowns. There's meltdowns for adults. There's meltdowns for children. What can we do to minimize the meltdowns?
Yeah.
Having that conversation prior that's the key. It's just going in with a strategy and being flexible, knowing that the whole day is fluid. That's the great thing about Park Hopper too. We talked about this. You go in with a single park and it's the busiest day of the year at Animal Kingdom. Why are all these people at Animal Kingdom? And you can't park hop. You're there all day long because you got a single ticket. So I think with this new Lightning Lane strategy is you want to be able to go back and forth between a couple of parks because it could be fluid.
Yes.
The benefit of the new Lightning Lane system is that you might know 7 days in advance
Yep.
how you want to play that. So that's a good strategy to have a week prior.
It's a good point too, because I think in the past there is a difference now with park hopper versus single day, because if you are planning on, you want to rely on Lightning Lanes.
Yes.
I think with Genie Plus, it was a lot easier to be like, I'm going to spend my entire day at Magic Kingdom because I'm going to do, 6 rides in the morning. I'm going to go back, I'm going to have lunch and go to the pool, and then I'm going to have 3 more rides at night.
Yeah, you're going to stack those every 2 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not working that way.
Yeah.
Which is good and bad. Like there's positives and negatives to it. But I think now you're right. It's nice to have that flexibility to say, oh my gosh, all the attractions at Magic Kingdom are
they're gone.
Yeah. Or they're at 9 o'clock at night. And I'm not saying that way.
Right.
But over at Epcot, they're instant walk-ons. So it's something to think about, especially when you look at what the price difference is.
Right. Yeah.
I think we had a great day yesterday.
Yeah.
I think we were very surprised by as much as we were able to do. And I would say too, we did 20 rides, but again, we're 2 adults. So, we were okay with picking up food as we go. We did sit down for lunch, actually. Yeah.
We did enjoy some AC and some quiet time. We saw some shows.
We did,
in France. Got to just kind of relax a little bit. But I think it's because we talked about it prior.
Yes.
We had a plan. We had a backup plan. And then we were able to just enjoy the day. It did not feel, honestly, I was kind of shocked at our set count. We didn't have that many. We weren't back and forth starring the whole park. We were able to go in kind of a circle around the attraction.
Yeah. Which is important to us, too, though, when we talk to our families, because, you don't want to go your first day. So many families will start at Magic Kingdom because obviously it's,
it's the one.
It is
the place to be.
Emblematic.
It's the most magical place on earth.
But you don't want to start your first day at Magic Kingdom and then you're done and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm getting up tomorrow. I'm exhausted after this.
Do I have to put on shoes?
Yeah. My feet are swollen. But we were talking about it when we got back to the room last night. We were like, we're tired, but we're not park tired. We've had days where we're park tired.
Yeah.
And that wasn't yesterday. So that's where I'm like, okay, this system is I'm happy with it.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
And a week ago, I was nervous.
Erica is was the queen of Genie Plus. So she could get you any attraction you wanted. She would just figure it out. And now, her whole world was
shaking upside down. What am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go?
Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised.
Yes. And we're happy that we took the time to do this because I think it will just, it'll help our families a lot more. It just makes us feel a lot more confident about it. And, we can hear about the system from other people, but actually being able to use it.
Yes.
And at all 4 parks at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Has been really nice. So let's talk about the other 2 parks.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times we find that families have the most difficulty with Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios. So that's what we wanted to focus on. We started our day at Magic Kingdom yesterday, and then today we started at Hollywood Studios, which is what we would always recommend. Those are the ones that you're going to take advantage of that extra, or the early park entry.
The 30 minutes, yes.
And we're not even going to take into effect here, or into, consideration the extended hours that you get as a deluxe or resort guest.
Yeah.
But that is something to think about, too. So you do as a deluxe resort guest 2 times a week. It's Mondays are at Epcot right now, and Wednesdays are at Magic Kingdom. You do get 2 hours at those parks that are basically only for deluxe resort guests. So it's something to consider. That does give you some extra time. But separate and apart from that, we're not going to go into that right now. We'll have a whole other, but talking about Hollywood Studios, there is so many big attractions here.
Huge attractions, and it's a small park.
Yes.
You're not running back and forth. Small, limited number of attractions. I think we went into this day, we weren't going to be able to park hop to Animal Kingdom. After we got our selections a week ago, we had Slinky Dog at 4:55. So I was like, no, Animal Kingdom's closing at 6. There's no way we can get there.
Yeah. So very different from Magic Kingdom. Our selections for Magic Kingdom were very much early morning to 12.
Right.
So we were like, okay, perfect for park hopping.
Yep.
With Hollywood Studios, the only things we were able to get were I think we originally had like a 10 o'clock.
Yeah, our first one was after 10.
Yeah, like a 10 something for Toy Story Mania, and then a 12 for Tower of Terror, and then a 4:55 for Slinky Dog.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked through what our strategy was last night, and we were like, you know what? I think we just need to get an earlier. We need to get an earlier time.
We just need to pick something.
Yeah. So we wound up moving our Toy Story Mania to a Muppets Vision 3D.
Muppets Vision 3D.
Yeah, at 9 o'clock, which you're probably thinking, why would you do that? But we do have a reason. We'll talk about it. And then our Slinky Dog.
Yeah, so Slinky Dog was too late.
Yeah.
It was too late in the day for our plan.
So what did we wind up changing Slinky Dog?
We
modified
to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Mickey and Minnie's is going to be a tier A as well, so we're able to do that modification in advance.
Yep.
You can't modify a tier B to a tier A in advance,
right.
But once you get into the park, the tiers don't matter.
Right.
So it's kind of like whose line is
once
our
you
way.
Scan in.
Yeah, I was just going to make a joke.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
If anyone knows whose line is it anyway, Mom, Dad, if you're listening, it's like, where the points don't matter, the tiers don't matter. Thank you so much.
She's hilarious.
Moving on, we've had a long 2 days.
Life of the party.
So that was, we made that decision that we were going to do that.
Yeah.
Which we look back on, we're like, that was great.
Best decision we've ever made.
Best decision.
Yeah.
For sure. And when we decided we were resort guests, so we were able to get in early. And what was your thought process for early entry? Because you kind of took hold of this day.
So it's always, I feel, it's a gambling situation. I think, okay, should we rope drop Mickey and Minnie's? Because it's so close to the entrance. You don't have to walk. You don't have to run far.
And it's a long experience.
It's a long attraction.
Yeah.
It's going to take probably the majority of your 30 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to take it. So I love it, by the way. I don't ever want to skip it.
Yeah, no. We're always doing it.
Yes. So the game plan was kind of, let's change Slinky Dog. And let's rope drop Slinky Dog.
Which I have to say, I was like, I don't think this is a good idea. I think everyone is going to rope drop Slinky Dog. I think that it's just, I don't know. But Erica was like, let's just get there early. Which we should talk about what is the process.
And we really didn't get there that early. We weren't there at 7 a.m. We kind of like casually strolled in. I think we got there a little after 7:30. Went through security. They let us through the gates. We went in about 7:50, 7:55.
So park opened for
9.
Everyone at 9. Yeah. So that means that early park entry, is 8:30. But with Hollywood Studios, whereas with other parks this isn't the same.
Right. This is a
you get in actually for early park entry a half hour earlier than that.
Yes.
And they allow you to line up for an attraction.
And I think it's great about the setup of Hollywood Studios is you have your 3 biggest attractions on the opposite corners of the park.
Yeah, you really do have this
you have Star Wars going to the left, Slinky Dog going straight back. You have Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster. Those are going to the right. So they're able to queue you up before early entry actually begins.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about with your Hollywood Studios days, that you want to make sure that you're there. We always say get there a half hour earlier than they're going to let you into the park. So we went right to Slinky Dog Dash, and like I said, I wasn't sure how this was going to work out before we did it, but I am glad I trusted Erica because we were probably, 40 people back from the front?
Yeah.
If that? We were on the second car that went out.
Yep.
So I think when we were there, we were like, okay, so this was kind of like this really worked out well because when you're in Toy Story Land, you have 3 attractions that are right there.
Yep. Yes. You have Slinky Dog, Toy Story Mania, and my favorite,
Aliens Swirly Saucers. Yeah. Which we were able to do all of them within the half hour.
Yes, in 30 minutes.
Yeah, and of course, like we said, we got there a half hour earlier. then the park opened.
Yeah.
So
really within 60 minutes we hit 3 attractions.
Yeah,
if you consider our wait time.
Exactly. So we had that we had, and I think that's I would recommend that strategy. I think if you're gonna if you're gonna early entry, because you do have the attractions right there.
Yes.
Like you were saying with Mickey and Minnie's, that's kind of...
It's a long attraction. It's going to take up a lot of that 30 minutes where you could be hitting other rides.
Yeah. And also, the thing with Mickey and Minnie's is it's a long attraction. And then also to get to your next attraction, you're going to have a walk no matter what it is.
Exactly.
So think about that too as you're putting together kind of your strategy for, rope drop. But we went on, we were able to do those 3 attractions, and then our first lightning lane was
Muppet Vision 3D, which I've never done before.
Yeah, so, we introduced Erica to Muppet Vision 3D, and she was like, I'm okay if it leaves. But the whole reason for us having that is not that we needed a lightning lane, it was that it was the earliest lightning lane available. Right. So we did that, and then we could use that lightning lane, just like we did the day before, as kind of like our one that we could play with.
Our fun lightning lane.
Yeah. Because the other ones that we had at that point were Tower of Terror and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway.
Yes.
So we went on and we did, right when we tapped in, we made our next reservation, and we grabbed it for Rock and Roller Coaster because we looked at the times and we saw that the one that had the latest return time was Rock and Roller Coaster. Yeah. So we knew that's the one we wanted to get. The only attraction that we didn't do in Hollywood Studios that is on MultiPass, other than the shows, was Smuggler's Run.
Which had availability. It was something where we could have grabbed it because we got an early Mickey and Minnie's Runaway. We had it 10:20, so we could have grabbed it. Millennium Falcon still had availability early afternoon. I think it was like 12:30, 12:45. Yeah. So it would have been an option. So it was one of those that was still available.
Yes. Yeah. But for us, we just decided what we would rather do is start to grab some attractions.
We wanted to park hop. Yeah, we wanted to see, can we get to Animal Kingdom?
Exactly. And we were able to.
Yeah.
But before we got over, we were able to grab Rock and Roller Coaster and Tower of Terror, and we did have some downtime in there. So we were able to grab a drink, grab lunch, talk to some people that we met.
Ran into some people we knew.
Yeah. So
met some new people.
Yes. So it wasn't like we were just running around the whole time. Which was nice.
Yes.
Because I think that at least for me, when I was going into the day, I thought that's what it was going to be.
I was worried that we were going to be running back and forth. Like at Magic, we had done the circle. We weren't crisscrossing across the park.
Yeah.
Hollywood, I thought, oh gosh, this is a small park, so we're not going to feel it until tomorrow, but we're going to be crisscrossing.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to do that.
No, because we were able, this is the nice thing about this new system is with the modification of times that you can do, we were able to say, okay, so we have Tower of Terror at this time. I want to make sure that I'm getting Rock and Roller Coaster around that time,
either right before or right after.
Yeah, because I don't want to.
You don't want to go back.
Yeah. I mean, in that corner of the park, it's really that, and we wound up getting lunch there.
Yes.
So that worked out really well for us. But it's not like there's other attractions there. So, the other thing that Hollywood Studios has that we didn't do today is the shows.
The shows, yeah. So Frozen Sing-Along, Indiana Jones.
But those were having pretty much like, they were very similar to what Genie Plus we would see. So they're going to be, available for the different show times. But also, unless you're in a very busy time, I don't usually use those for Genie Plus.
No.
Or I'm sorry, I should say Lightning Lane.
Yes.
So just, it's more of something to keep an eye on and to think about when you're going. The busy times are going to be holiday times when kids are off of school. Yeah. So if you're going at those times, maybe you want to keep an eye on that. But that's really going to be it.
And there's such large state, like Indiana Jones, you're in a huge area.
Oh, yeah.
A ton of seating.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't use a lightning lane for that.
No, I agree. So perfect. So we started to kind of stack, quote unquote, for Animal Kingdom, and we were able to get Everest, Dinosaur,
and Safari.
Yeah, and Kilimanjaro Safari.
And Navi River really was available too.
Yeah. So, and for us, we just knew we weren't interested in doing that today, but that was one that was available. There also still was availability for a single pass. Avatar
Yes.
Flight of Passage. So we haven't talked about single pass yet, but it's called Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, which is the old Genie Plus, and then Lightning Lane Single Pass is going to be our individual attraction selections. So those are your kind of high demand, the highest demand attractions. So we did get one for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep, yesterday.
Cosmic Rewind, so we did that. And then today we could have gotten one, because we have Park Hopper, we could have gotten two.
Yeah, you can hold two. So,
at any of the parks.
Yeah.
We just decided not to do that, but just so you know, that's not something like if you were going into the park and you were saying, the only thing I care about doing is Tron, you could just grab that.
Yes.
You do not need to get multi-pass in order to do it. It's not included in that. So that's just something to, think about as you're trying to plan out your days. But yeah, it's nice too. There's a few changes to that section of the program as well, or the system.
Yeah, and a nice benefit too.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I think that this is a fun thing to do. I think the multi-pass was a great, eye-opening experience for me. Tell us about your favorite part about the single pass.
I loved that you can change your single pass time now. So in the past, if you don't know this, your individual attraction selection, you would select a time, at your 7 a.m. drop or when you got into the park, whatever it was, and you were stuck with that time.
If you had a meltdown in the middle of the day,
adult or child,
you were, I can't leave yet. I have a Star Wars Rise of the Resistance at 3:45.
And there was no going back, basically.
Yeah.
But with this system, what is really nice is you can change your time. You can also change your attraction.
You can change your attraction and just pay the difference if there's a price difference.
Yeah. So for me, I originally had made this for Rise of Resistance.
Yes.
And then I realized, wait, this isn't going to work with our schedule. So then I actually modified it to Tron. And then I was like, you know what? I think we're going to Epcot, and I know Erica really loves Guardians of the Galaxy, so let's modify it to that. And then we wound up modifying the time as well.
Yep.
So we were able to do all of this, and it's so nice to have that kind of 7-day leeway to do that in. So that was super nice to me.
Yeah.
I was very excited about
that. Was a great perk to being able to do that purchase, because it does cost money. It's something extra that you're putting on top of your ticket. So to have flexibility, that's what we talked about. You've got to have a strategy, you have to have a plan, but you have to be flexible. Well, now you can be flexible when you're in the parks. Prior to the parks, things can change. So that gives you that option, which was a great option.
Yeah. So did you find that there was any differences that stood out to you from any of the parks? Was it different what your strategy was thinking about Hollywood Studios versus Magic Kingdom, or were you kind of looking at it similar?
I was kind of looking very similar. One of my favorite things to do is look at wait times. Sitting in the Panhandle, what am I going to do today? I wish I was at Disney. Let's see what the wait time is at Epcot. So pulling those, and it surprised me that it was very similar. You're seeing a lot of the same. Now, not Lightning Lane. So Lightning Lane surprised me that the times were going faster, but the wait times to me weren't surprising. I think we were still able to really use the same strategy I would use for a family for Genie Plus with the new Lightning Lane system.
Yeah, and I think, I had mentioned it before, but I just think that rope drop is just so much more important now. Yeah. Because you can't say you're just not on the same.
Right.
There's not an even playing field. In all honesty,
there's not.
But I will say that I am planning a park day.
You're planning a park day in a couple of days.
Yes. Yeah. For someone who just has a 1-day ticket, and then for 2 annual pass holders. And it really wasn't bad either. Yeah. So I was able to get 5 different attractions because we're going to Magic Kingdom, and we were able to get 2 Lightning Lane single passes and then 3 Lightning Lane multi passes. The only thing that wasn't available was Tiana's Bayou. Yeah. But right now,
but you can do the virtual queue.
Yeah, we do have virtual queues. Yeah. So it wasn't, I don't know, it didn't hinder our our plans or anything like that. So you just have to look at it a little differently, I think.
Well, tell me, so this morning you got those Lightning Lanes for Sunday.
Yeah.
for me, grabbing it, the anxiety I used to have every morning on a Disney vacation, I was the person that was in charge. I was the person taking lead. I didn't want any, type A, don't touch this, about it.
Yeah.
Whereas I slept so great, knowing I didn't have to worry if I slept through an alarm.
Yes.
Like, and we were up, rested, where with this new system, you have it all planned out prior in one day. When we were able to book 7 days prior to our trip, we could book the entire stay.
Yeah.
So tell me, did you have anxiety this morning when you were selecting, or were you just kind of go with the flow? Let's see what's available. You can modify now after spending 2 days doing it, or 1 day, and then starting a second day in the parks. How did you feel this morning when you were doing that selection?
Yeah, I'm never someone who has anxiety about this, because I'm always like, there's like a plan B, C, and D after that. So if, when I talk to families, I think the biggest thing is priorities.
Yes.
You are not going to do everything.
Right.
So I need you to talk me through what's your top 3 to 5 attractions. Yeah. And that's what we're going to focus on. Mm-hmm. So if you tell me your top attraction is Haunted Mansion and I wasn't able to get Haunted Mansion, all right, we're going to rope drop Haunted Mansion. Rope drop. We're going to get number 2, and then we're going to figure out what's the best way for you to experience that attraction without you waiting in a 80-minute line or whatever it may be. And there's always ways to do it. Even on holidays, like there's always ways to do it. Yes, your wait time's going to be longer.
So many different strategies you could go for.
But that's where, like, I don't know, for a person that has anxiety, these are the things that, like, I love. And I think also it's just, I've been to the parks so many times that I have tried out so many different strategies and different ways to do things. So I can say, like, hey, if you don't want to purchase Rise of Resistance and you're okay with going later at night and maybe the ride breaks down, you can get in at, a minute before the park closes, and you could wait 20 minutes.
Exactly.
So there's all different strategies. So I think for me, that's why I don't feel the anxiety as much, but it is nice to not have to be like, oh God, every day of my trip, I'm getting up at 7 a.m. Yeah. But there's pluses and minuses. So I think let's talk about those. What are the pluses and minuses that you find with this system versus Genie Plus?
Well, I mean, I think, like you were just saying, this morning I woke up and I said, I don't have an alarm set. Do I need to set an alarm for 7? What am I grabbing? This is weird. Am I just going to have a coffee? What do I do with my hands? Like, where's my phone? Yeah. So whereas yesterday we were just watching and seeing, but this morning I wasn't on my phone at all. We knew what the plans were. We knew what we were going to grab. We knew what we were going to do. So that's a big positive for me, to be present with my family. I was able to we had breakfast. We were able to get a good ride to the parks and just kind of you're present. Whereas before, I'm like, okay, we've got to get there. We've got a 9 o'clock Peter Pan. We've got to hurry because then we got to scan in at 8:55. We got to get there at 9. We can't wait till 10, even though you have that hour-long window. So that's a big positive for me, is just to be able to be present in the mornings, which beforehand would be a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I like about this system is what I always talk to my families about is, like, figuring out, like, handling your expectations. Like when you go into a park, you're like, okay, we're going to go and we're going to do all this. And with Genie Plus, it was like 7 a.m. At that point, you could kind of manage your expectations. But with this, it's like, all right, we didn't get Peter Pan at 9 a.m. So what's our game plan? Like, you don't have to make a spur of the moment
decision,
plan.
right? Yeah.
So for this, it's like you can kind of manage expectations better.
Yeah.
And I think with having, young children or just honestly even adults, sometimes they're worse. Just being like, okay, so here's where we stand for the day. Here's our plan. Yeah. And also understand, like, things are going to change.
Yes.
I mean, when we were at Magic Kingdom, like, Tiana's didn't open until...
It was late, yeah.
Yeah, an hour and a half
we had
into
an
the
early
day, maybe 2 hours.
And still,
Yeah. But we were also like, okay, we're going to, like, we thought we were going to be doing that early in the day. But we wound up just kind of pivoting from there. And I think that's the biggest thing. But it just allows you to kind of, like, set those expectations a little bit further in advance. So...
I do think we enjoyed our day too. Like, our downtime was enjoyable downtime. We weren't waiting to go to the next thing. It was just a very calm, enjoyable relaxation downtime.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, because before it was like, okay, I'm waiting for my alarm to go off for my 2-hour reservation window.
Yes.
And now with this, it's like, okay, when I'm in line is when I'm making my next.
That's when you're making. So really, you're not. You're strategizing before you tap, before you go into that. But that's really about it. And then after that, you're good.
Yeah.
You don't have to set another alarm.
No, it's just an easy reminder. Is hey, I just tapped into a ride. Yeah. Let me figure out what I'm going to do next.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm honestly very happy with the system. And I don't know if we both would have said that
if you
3 days ago.
Me, yesterday morning. If you would have asked me, 6:30 a.m.
Erica was having extreme anxiety about this, but I'm really happy that we went through and we did
so happy that we did this.
So yeah, any closing thoughts that you have?
No, I mean, I guess I'll report back in October when I'm here with 4 kids and 6 adults.
Let me know how it goes.
How they go. We are here for a longer trip, so it'll be interesting to see how do we change our rest day based on what's available for lightning lanes when we do the selections. So that'll be exciting to see. But I'm no longer dreading that aspect of the trip. Yeah. It's something to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and that's, we've learned a lot from this in terms of, priorities are important when you're in the park, but priorities are also important before
you get there.
So if the whole family's saying that Guardians of the Galaxy is your most important, okay, maybe you're grabbing that. I would say you always go for the multi-pass attraction that is kind of selling out first.
Yes.
And right now it's going to be Tiana's and Slinky Dog. So if those are 2 that you're interested in, grab those first. But one note on that too, you will be booking day by day. So you can book for your entire length of stay, but you'll basically go and say, okay, I want, the 27th of September is going to be my Magic Kingdom day. I'm going to select my attractions for that day. I'll go through and complete the purchase, and then I'm going back to my next, whatever day is. And you don't have to go in the order of it doesn't have to be the 27th, 28th.
Right.
So pick the day that you
is your
is the most important to you. So anything else that you can think of? I know we share a lot on our Instagrams.
Yes.
Which, Erica, where can they follow you at?
So they can follow me at my name, so eRiley12. But also, I love what you've done with KMV Travel's Instagram. I think that that's so informative. I send my families to your Instagram. You have so many tips and tricks. You have pro tips. You have referrals. People that have experienced what you've done for families. So, but you can find me at eRiley12.
Yes, and always it's KMV Travel Co. on Instagram, Facebook.com/KMV Travel, YouTube, of course, as you know. But
can I just say I watched your vlog for the lightning lanes prior to this trip. I'm like, okay, Kelly did a vlog. Let me see how it went.
Yes, I did it. So I did the first day.
Yes,
that they came out.
Amazing.
Thank you.
The screen sharing. I'm like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, and we'll link that below. But that was the first day, so it was good to kind of understand the system. And if you just want to get an overview of how does the system itself work and what does it look like, I would recommend that. Which if you're going to be booking your lightning lanes, for sure do that.
Definitely.
But this kind of process that we did went more in depth into each park. What are we seeing?
Right.
So, but of course, as always, I want to thank Erica for spending 2 days with me, of course. But also coming on and talking on here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. We'll have to do this again.
Yes.
And as always, be sure to comment, subscribe, like. If you have done the Lightning Lane Multipass system, I would love to hear what you all think, what your feedback is on it. And if you're planning a trip and you would like our assistance with planning your trip, be sure to reach out to KMV Travel. We offer complimentary service, but we also do offer concierge daily itinerary planning. So if you're looking to kind of have our assistance getting your day all set up, we can help you with that too. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll be back soon.